I thought maybe this is just how the Boy Scouts operate. Maybe this is part of becoming a man.
David is one of many former Boy Scouts who previously told us their scout leaders sexually abused them from the mid-1960s to the late 1980s. They claim the Irving-based organization knew that its members were using their positions to groom and to sexually abuse children. Now, at least 15 states have recently relaxed their laws, allowing victims to sue the Scouts decades after the alleged abuse happened. And as a result, Boy Scout filings show hundreds of lawsuits have been filed, and there could be as many as 1,700 more in the pipeline. In addition, a number of former Boy Scouts executives have taken legal action to protect their pensions. Today's bankruptcy filing says the Boy Scouts has spent more than $150 million in legal costs since 2017, and continuing to address abuse litigation on a case-by-case basis is unsustainable.
This is not the end of the road.
Attorney Michelle Simpson-Tugel, who represents dozens of former Boy Scouts, says victims will still be able to seek compensation, but the process will be different.
And I think that will probably be a sexual abuse bankruptcy case that has never been seen before in the size and scale of it.
The Boy Scouts say bankruptcy will not stop them from continuing their programs or paying abuse survivors. Today, leadership issued an apology to victims and said scouting is safer now than ever before.
I think it is a huge warning to these organizations that if they don't proactively prevent sexual abuse, then they will literally be shut down or be forced into bankruptcy.
In Dallas, I'm Charlotte Huffman.